I think I've said this in a previous video, but the era of the PS2, there was a handful of games that really dominated those years for me. Whether it was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater or Underground and American Wasteland, the WWE games like SmackDown vs. Raw or Here Comes the Pain, there was a variety of different games that really soared throughout those years of the PlayStation 2. But a series that had like back-to-back bangers that for me trumped all of them were the Dragon Ball Z games. More specifically, the Budokai Tenkaichi games. Now, there's two different sides of Dragon Ball Z games during the PS2 era. There's the Budokai series and then there's the Tenkaichi series. Two completely different game franchises. See, Budokai was more of a 2.5D fighter, kind of like games like Mortal Kombat Armageddon or Deadly Alliance, while the Tenkaichi games, that was arena based. Now, the Budokai series was a Dragon Ball Z video game franchise released between 2002 and 2004 for PlayStation 2 consoles. The third one out of the series being considered the best one. And that's for good reason. I mean, no disrespect to people who like the first two, but the first two games don't really put up that much of a competition compared to the third one. Anyways, the series was successful and ended in 2004 with the final release of Budokai 3. Now, a year after this, in like 2005, they decided to release Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 1 for PlayStation 2 consoles. Now, I don't know why they kept the Budokai in the name. I don't know what the shit means. I never did. But they're two completely different games. I already said this like a minute ago. 2.5D for Budokai, Arena Fighter for Tenkaichi. And that might not sound like much when I say it like that, but those two are very drastic differences. Budokai, there was a lot of confined space in terms of combat between you and your opponent. In Tenkaichi, you can have a whole neighborhood filled with houses, buildings, cars, whatever, and you and an opponent just go at it, smashing through buildings, leaving craters on the floor. It was crazy. You had so much space between you and your opponent. Like, the bounds felt limitless. For Tenkaichi, you felt like you were in an environment rather than a stage. Then the game was a hit. Just like the Budokai series, they ended up getting 3 games of their own. People don't really talk about the first one. Too many people talk about the third one, but I think the series really started to really soar with Tenkaichi 2. Because in Tenkaichi 2, there was a lot more destruction. You could transform in game. I don't remember being able to do that in the first one. Just like Budokai 3, you can destroy the environment you were in by using an ultimate attack and hitting the wrong thing. Like, let's say you try to hit an opponent with a super Kamehameha and they missed and you hit the ground and you're on like planet Namek. The whole world would just explode and now you're in a completely different environment. Once again, I have no memory of being able to do that in Tenkaichi 1. Even though there was more space, the game was a little more limiting in comparison to Tenkaichi 2 and 3. Now, just like the Budokai series, the Tenkaichi series ended with the third entry, Budokai Tenkaichi 3, released in the year 2007. Considered the best in the series. Now, after Tenkaichi 3 was released, there were games that try to recreate the feeling that you felt playing it. You know, games like Raging Blast 1 and 2. I've always kind of considered them like a modern take on the Tenkaichi series. I mean, they played damn near the same in both controls and gameplay. Hell, Raging Blast 2, for at least my copy and a lot of others, had the same soundtrack as Tenkaichi 2. And even though you could make the comparison between the two series, you never felt the same rush you felt playing any of the Tenkaichi games. The same thing with Xenoverse. I've heard some people try to compare the Xenoverse games to the Tenkaichi games, and I can kind of see their point, but not really. I never felt like I was playing Tenkaichi 4 or Tenkaichi Remastered with any of the Xenoverses. But long story short, people have been asking for years for a continuation of the Tenkaichi series. Hell, even a remaster of the third one. And I'm not always the biggest fans of remasters, but I would gladly play it. Anything to get the feeling that they had in 2007. The people spent years modding Tenkaichi 3 to the point where the people on PC basically had Tenkaichi 4 already. Damn near 3 generations of gaming had passed since we've seen anything related to Tenkaichi news, period. That was until 2023, where a new trailer was officially released for the latest Dragon Ball game, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Yo, the hype me and my friends, the hype everybody had when this game was first announced was crazy. Because at the time, I think it was like, what, 16 years since Tenkaichi 3? A lot of people thought it was never gonna happen. I spent years seeing fake Tenkaichi 4 news and trailer vids, so actually witnessing the real one was fucking crazy. And after 17 years, Budokai Tenkaichi 4 has officially been released. Now, despite the name change, this is officially Tenkaichi 4. The reason why it's called Sparking Zero, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, was even though in America it was called Budokai Tenkaichi, in Japan it was called Sparking, like during the releases of 1 through 3. So I guess the title Sparking Zero was supposed to be like a homage to the Japanese games. No matter what the reason for the name change is, this is Tenkaichi 4. Now, globally, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero was released on October 11th on PS5, PS4, Xbox One, all consoles, right? But if you ordered the Deluxe or the Ultimate Edition, you got it a few days earlier. Like me and my friends, we got it on Tuesday, which I'm pretty sure was the 8th. Yo, the second that game finished downloading on my console, that was the only thing I played for like 2 weeks. Now, don't get it twisted, I was extremely hyped for this game. I was very excited, we all were. But, and I don't want this to come off weird, but I didn't really expect much from it. And what I mean by that is, for people who probably didn't play the series, they were never really meant to be anything deep. In terms of story, I mean, like the game, they all retold the story of Dragon Ball Z, heavily between the first two ones. But you never really played the game to live out the story. If you want, you could have just watched it on television or DVD. The main attraction for those games was always the combat, like the gameplay itself. Like to me, Tenkaichi 1 was the craziest shit ever. And it wasn't because it retold the story of Z, it's because it had good gameplay and a fire-ass intro. The story mode was always just a bonus, or a way for you to unlock characters if you didn't have any passwords. And I'm saying that to say this for two reasons. I noticed that when this game came out, or even before it came out, I heard people joking about like, oh, great, another game that retells the story of Dragon Ball Z. We get to see Frieza kill Krillin again, not realizing that that wasn't the point of the games. The second reason is, even though it does kind of retell the story of Z in a pretty fast pace, I might add, there's a whole nother side to it that they indulged in during this game that I'm going to talk about later. The point I'm trying to make is I knew what I was getting into when I bought Tenkaichi 4. All I expected was just Tenkaichi 3 with updated graphics and an updated roster. And I got that. But I also got a little bit more. Now, before I get into the gameplay, I want to talk about how they handled the story. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero does retell the story of Z throughout multiple different perspectives in the game mode episode battle. These perspectives include Goku, Piccolo, Gohan, Vegeta, Frieza, and Goku Black. For the sake of time, and seeing how he's the main character, we're gonna go with Goku. Now, Goku's episode battle is probably the longest because it's from the beginning of Z all the way to the end of Super. You start off with the Saiyan Saga. Raditz shows up on Earth, comes to kidnap Gohan because Goku refuses to join him. Now you're tasked with having to track him down and bring Gohan back. Typical Dragon Ball Z shit. Now, this is where the second element of story kicks in that I was talking about. There's a what if sequence throughout all these episode battles. It's not like its own mode, it's more so its own line in the tree. There's a section where, and for Goku for example, a character will ask a question or something would happen where you need to make a decision, where you can either agree to fight alongside Piccolo and go take down Raditz and save Gohan like what happened in the show, or you can choose not to go with Piccolo and instead tag along with Krillin. This is where the first what if happens. Now, originally I chose the Piccolo path and everything went according to plan. They went to go fight Raditz. Goku had to hold Raditz down for the special beam cannon. He dies, Piccolo takes Gohan to train him for the next Saiyan arrival. And so goes the story of Z. Now, if you take the other sequence where you reject Piccolo's help and you instead choose Krillin, now you get into the what if sequence. You, Krillin, and Master Roshi go to fight Raditz and bring back Gohan. And despite Piccolo having his help rejected, he still shows up to save the day. So rather than Goku having to hold down Raditz for a special beam cannon, Goku, Krillin, and Master Roshi all use their own form storm of techniques to distract Raditz and hold him down long enough for Piccolo to hit him with the special beam cannon. Now, in this situation, Goku wasn't needed to pull that human shield shit, so he didn't die after Piccolo hit the special beam cannon because he wasn't behind Raditz to begin with. Now, Raditz still tells them that two Saiyans will appear a year from now, just like he did in the show, but in this situation, Goku isn't dead. So rather than him dying and going to King Kai's place to train, he trains at the lookout with Yamcha, Tien, Krillin, and Chaozu. Now, in this section of the story, Piccolo still ends up training Gohan by himself, much like the show. However, in this situation, he felt like the others were taking it too easy on Gohan, thus coming up with the idea to train him himself. So Gohan's story doesn't really change much in this What If. They all spend the rest of the year training to fight off the Saiyans. And the biggest thing about this What If, to me at least, is the Kaioken. For me, I feel like the Kaioken, or in him going to King Kai's place in general, was a huge factor as to why he was able to defeat Nappa and Vegeta. He was training in ways that he just couldn't on Earth. Wasn't it like the gravity on King Kai's planet was heavier than it was on Earth, so he was able to move faster when he got back? It was something like that. It was a lot more intense. So without the training from King Kai and the Kaioken, I was kind of left wondering, okay, well, if he's alive in this one and he doesn't learn any of that shit, how is he going to beat Vegeta and Nappa when they come through? And in my opinion, it was pretty well thought out. They just straight up jumped them. According to the story, due to their strict training, they were able to fend off the Cybermen without any of them dying, and after getting rid of the Cybermen, Goku hits Nappa with a one-on-one. And despite not having the Kaioken or King Kai's training, he still defeats Nappa. And now all that's left is Vegeta. Now this is where the real big twists start happening due to Goku not dying. Now, instead of it being Goku versus Vegeta, it's Vegeta versus the Z Fighters. As I said, they jumped him. Rather than fighting Vegeta by yourself, if you had chosen the regular storyline, in the What If line, it's you, Piccolo, and Tien. All three of you team up to defeat Vegeta in his base form. After the battle's over, Vegeta goes Great Ape like he did in the other story, but as I said, in this situation, now you have help. It's not just a one-on-one thing. Now, the process of beating Great Ape Vegeta is the same as it was in the original games, and in this one too, like if you chose the regular story. But for me, I feel like the What If Saga version, it's a lot easier. Because in the original one, all you really had to do, you can hit him with the solar flare, run away as fast as you can. You have to spam Kamehamehas over and over again. In this one, it's a little bit different. I mean, it's the same thing, but another way for you to really add extra damage to him is if you beam clash with him. If you win that beam clash, it does a lot more extra damage to him if you just hit him with a regular Kamehameha. So aim to do that, but the reason why it's easier in this one is because now you have help. Rather than it being a one-on-one thing, you against this giant monster, you can switch out with two other people and have three completely different health bars. That will make or break you depending on how much you care about the difficulty. Me personally, I didn't mind having the extra help. Now, around the end of the Great Ape fight between the original trio and Great Ape Vegeta, the others join in to help jump him. That includes Yamcha, Gohan, Krillin, and Chaozu. Now, Krillin, Tien, and Goku use the solar flare to blind Great Ape Vegeta, and while he's blinded, Krillin uses his Destructo Disc to cut off his tail. Next up, Yamcha, Piccolo, and Gohan all load up the strongest blast they can pull to take him out, all the while Chaozu keeps him paralyzed. Now, they think they've beaten him, they're all cheering. He's still alive. He reveals it. Him and Goku run the fade one more time. He loses. He resorts to using that human shield shit he would have did with Raditz on Vegeta so Piccolo can use the special beam cannon. He misses because Vegeta gets out the way, and right when he's about to kill Gohan and the rest of his friends, Goku hits him with a one-handed spirit bomb, damn near killing Vegeta. He lets him go like he did in the show, and you know what? I don't even know. I'm not about to tell the whole fucking story of Dragon Ball Z or the What If scenario. Hell, this is only half of the What If scenario. I'm gonna try and summarize the next part so I can get to the gameplay. Because let's keep it real, that's the most important part of the game. Long story short, Vegeta comes back to Earth after we all thought he died. He tells Goku that he needs to find the Dragon Ball so he can become immortal and defeat Frieza. Goku and friends say no. They beat his ass and jump him again. He gets his ass beat so hard he decides to join them so they can jump Frieza. They train for the remaining of the time. wait for Frieza to show up on Earth so he can take the Dragon Balls because they're still on Earth because Piccolo didn't die. The entirety of the Namek Saga takes place on Earth in this shit. Ginyu Force shows up, they try to jump Goku, yet that's another thing. There's this match where you need to fight the Ginyu Force as Goku by yourself. Have fun. Ginyu swaps bodies with Vegeta this time instead of Goku. They get his body back. They go to jump Frieza. You as Goku need to fight through all different forms of Frieza until he gets to his final form. There you have the final fight. Halfway through the fight, Vegeta jumps in to back you up so you can have enough time to hit a Spirit Bomb. And this is where my favorite part of the What If episode happens. You get a sparking episode. A sparking episode is a fully acted out cutscene made specifically for the What If parts of the game. And other parts, but mainly What If. In this part, Goku's loading up a Spirit Bomb to take out Frieza, but he's running out of time. He ran out of time actually because Frieza caught him. Piccolo and Gohan distract Frieza long enough for Goku to finish off the Spirit Bomb. And unlike the show, when Goku connects with the Spirit Bomb, it successfully kills Frieza. Everyone celebrates, they're all happy that they finally eliminated Frieza. Vegeta vows to defeat Goku once and for all, and everyone goes their separate ways. Well, Vegeta goes his separate ways, everyone stays on Earth. And that's the ending of the What If saga for Goku, at least the first What If. And it's really fun playing through them, for two reasons. Number one, if you think about it, it's all just fan theories come to life. You know how many times I've heard someone ask, hey, what if Goku never died during the Saiyan saga? Or like, hey, what if Goku never went Super Saiyan during the Frieza saga? Would he have died? Etc, etc. The second reason is, they really didn't have to do this. They could have easily just left in the story for Dragon Ball Z going on to Super, and I would have been content. I mean, shit, that's what they did with the other ones. As I said, the story for me was always a bonus. Instead, they gave us the bonus and an extra bonus. The what if scenarios are very well fleshed out. And kind of going back to the whole fan theory thing, a couple of them are fan theories that I had. Like, my favorite saga in Dragon Ball Z was the Android saga. And I always wondered what would happen if Goku fought Android 17 and or 18 back then. Chances are he probably would have lost. Him and Vegeta weren't that far apart in strength at the time. But it was still a fun theory to have, and they do that in this game. They show you what would have happened in a what if Goku had went to stop Cell with the rest of the Z fighters and saved 17 and 18 from being absorbed. You have 3 different fights between 16, 17, and 18, and it all comes to a pretty happy conclusion. And that's just 2 what ifs from this game, man. Each section, each character has their own what ifs told between their stories. That's for you to find within the game. Episode Battle was fun. It gave you the opportunity to unlock characters and costumes rather than just buying it out the store. And it also provided a twist with the what if story mode. Let me know if you enjoyed it in the comments. Now off to the gameplay. Now, the gameplay is the best part about this game. It's always been that way with this series. Each game, the gameplay got better and better, and in this one, I feel like they truly perfected it. The gameplay is simple. You and an opponent select y'all characters, and y'all have an entire arena to basically kill each other in. Now, in this one, you have 2 options. You can either choose the new controls that they made specifically for Sparking Zero, or you can use the classic controls. I can't really speak for the standard because I use classic, but I'd suggest giving both a chance. The game is so fast paced, like more fast paced than it was previously. I think the best part about the gameplay for Sparking Zero, for me, it does a really good job at making you feel like you're playing an actual fight from one of the shows or the movies. Like in both gameplay and graphics. Combat, movement, snap vanishing, it's all so quick and kind of cinematic. You have a variety of moves you can use. You can use your Blast 1 moves, your Blast 2 moves, or your ultimate attacks. On the classic controls, it's L2 and triangle for Blast 1, L2 and circle for Blast 2. Now to do your ultimate, it's L2 down plus triangle. Now the ultimate attacks, like it kind of goes back to what I was saying about the whole it's so fast paced and cinematic. The ultimate attacks visually are fucking beautiful, both in how you get it and how you execute it. This is how you get your ultimate attack. This is the standard. You charge up your ki until a blue meter pops up and you charge that up too. Once it's all the way charged, you enter sparking mode. That's where you can do your ultimate. And the cool thing about sparking mode is when you start charging up, once that blue meter hits and it starts rising, the world around you changes. That's another cool part about this game. The environment is so interactive. Like the ground ground around you shakes, the leaves in the trees swing violently, the sky starts to darken, like dark clouds just pollute the air. If you're next to any houses or cars or any buildings in general, the second you reach sparking mode, it explodes. Like everything around you just pushed back, including your opponent. And that's when you hit your ultimate. Yo, they went in deep with the ultimates, man. The cutscenes, the lighting, the presentation, the voice acting, it all gets you hyped. And the second you connect with it, the second animation hits. And it's like you can feel the damage, whether you're taking it or throwing it out. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but the presentation of ultimate attacks and some of the super attacks too, it's like art. You can tell the developers really took their time with orchestrating every single scene, from the build up to the explosions. Bardock, Frieza, Kappa, Vegeta, they're all presented so dramatic and intense. Once again, it goes back to what I was saying. You feel like you're watching an actual move happening from the show or a movie. Same thing with the combos. They're very punishing. Now, as for the controls, they're exactly the same as the old Tenkaichi games, but there's been a few additions, like revenge counters. For example, if you double tap L1 when you have 2 bar stocks loaded up after an opponent hits you, you can counter it in a revenge hit 'em. Cause see, regular combos aren't snappable. If you get hit with a square spammer, you can't just snap vanish behind them. There's only certain attacks you can do that with. That's where the revenge counter comes into play. That gives you the opportunity to counter a regular combo, clock your opponent and hit him with a combo of your own. The second addition is perception counters. Perception counters is used like this. You don't need skill counts to do it, unlike you do with revenge counters. For this one, you hit circle and triangle at the same time, or you can hold circle and then hit triangle when your opponent's about to attack. If they hit you while you're doing a perception counter, one of two things will happen. You deflect your opponent's attack, pushing them back, giving you an opening to attack them. Or an animation happens where they go to attack you, and you deflect and dodge every single one of their attacks, ending with you blowing them back, once again giving you an opening for attack. Now, the perception counters are a lot easier to do than the revenge counters, and it's kind of easily spammable in comparison to the revenge counters because you don't need skill counts to use it, so you might run into that habit while you're playing online. But for the most part, once you get used to it, you'll be able to tell when someone's about to do it before you hit them, or more so track your opponent's pattern who continues to spam it. Another thing I love is the destruction. Now, quick disclaimer, the only maps in this game that are destroyable is Planet Namek and the World Tournament Arena. With Namek, if you, let's say you're playing as Majin Vegeta and you hit a self-destruct, or if you're playing as Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and you hit a Big Bang Kamehameha, if you miss your opponent and you hit the ground, the whole planet just burst. A whole animation sequence happens where the sky starts burning red, lava and flames start shooting from the ground, the whole planet is destroyed, thus creating the destroyed Planet Namek Arena. Now, for the World Tournament, is less you destroying the arena and you emptying out the crowd. If you do an ultimate attack and you're too close to the crowd, the announcer panics. He's like, yo, we gotta get up out of here, everybody run. And then a whole animation sequence happens when everybody in the crowd just flexes out the arena. They all just run out the door, and then the animation for your ultimate attack hits. And then for the remainder of the match, you and your opponent are fighting in an empty crowd. Once the crowd empties out, the whole arena is there for you to use. You can knock your opponent through the bleachers and the seats. It's so much fun when you're playing against like someone like Great Ape Vegeta or Harudagarn, and you like lay him out across the bleachers. It's such a fun animation. Another thing I love about this game is the return of beam struggles. Now, unlike the older ones when you had to like violently chase your joystick, you have a meter where you need to tap triangle before the meter hits the highest point of the bar, like 4 different times. And if you hit the bar high enough in comparison to your opponent, you win the beam struggle. Now, I will say I kind of wish they went the classic route with the joystick minigame rather than the triangle, because I think they were taking inspiration from Burst Limit, because with Burst Limit, it was the same thing. Instead of using the joystick, you needed to tap all 4 buttons at the same time, like rapidly, ahead of your opponent for you to win, if my memory serves me correctly. And I kind of wish they tweaked the camera a little bit. Like, remember how with the camera, it followed the middle of the clash, and it would move back and forth depending on who was winning the struggle. This one, they don't do it. It's a lot of spinning and shit, but I don't mind that. I still enjoy the fact that the beam struggles are back. But it's still in the game though. Even though they didn't use it for the beam struggles, they used it for the impact clashes. Like, if you and your opponent hit each other at the same time, first a button prompt pops up. It's normally square. If you hit that first, you get a boost. You hold L2 for a boost, and once again you use your left joystick to outmaneuver your opponent. That for me is exactly the same. It's a lot shorter than the other ones though. Like, it lasts a quick 5 to 10 seconds. Not even 5 to 10 seconds, just 5 seconds. It doesn't take too long. I wish they prolonged it a little bit, but I'm not complaining. I'm still happy it's in the game. The roster for this game is massive. Like, characters from Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and Dragon Ball Super all come together to make up the roster for this game. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there were a few characters that were missing that kind of, I'm not gonna say bothered me, but I looked at it and I was like, huh. The most notable one being Super Android 17. Because they have movie villains like the original Broly and Janemba, and they also have GT villains like Omega Shenron, Sin Shenron, and Baby Vegeta. My only assumption is characters like 17, they're probably going to appear in DLC later. I would have preferred him to be a part of the original set, but whatever. Like, me personally, characters I would like to see in the game is Super 17, obviously, Pycon, and even Tarble. Like, we haven't seen Tarble since, what was it, Raging Blast 2? I know it's small, but it'll still be nice to see him. I mean, shit, Frieza Soldier #1 made the cut, so I can't see why Android 14 and 15 can't. Despite people like them not being in the game, the roster is still very heavy, man. 3 different shows packed into one, and I loved it. I will say, since we're on the topic of characters, the character select screen is kinda meh. It's boring in comparison to the other ones. Once again, this isn't really like a valid criticism. It's more like me being nitpicky about something really small. I just figured that they were gonna bring back the character brackets from the first 3 games and have like their transformations be a part of the character themselves. Like, there are certain slots that are taken up by other people's transformations. Whether it's Janemba, Goku's other 3 Super Saiyan forms, Vegito and Gogeta's Super Saiyan forms. I just wish that it was done differently. But as I said, that's not really a valid criticism. It literally doesn't add anything to the gameplay. It doesn't affect it at all. That's just me being nitpicky. I will say a slight criticism I had is I wish there were more arenas, because currently in the game there's only 12 arenas, and I know we're gonna get more because, as I said before, you know, DLC, but it would have been nice if we had more off the start. Like, off the top of my head, I can think of like Space, the arena that they used for the North Planet tournament in Super, Glacier, which was in, I think, Tenkaichi and Raging Blast. The Lookout is the one I'm surprised of the most, because to my knowledge, that's been in like every single Dragon Ball Z game I've ever played. Like, I think the only Dragon Ball games I played where the Lookout wasn't a map was like Burst Limit and I think Battle of Z, but it was for sure in every Tenkaichi. Now, before we get into the online portion of the game, one more thing I want to say, and I kind of said it already with the visuals, but I just want to take more time to say how fucking beautiful it looks. Like, I said that you can compare it to the show or one of the movies. The movie I think about off rip when I look at the graphics for this gameplay is the Super Broly movie. Like, the animation for that movie, if you were to take a piece of the game, or just a sequence of one of the ultimate attacks, or Broly's ultimate attack, and you compare it to his ultimate attack in the movie, and put them like side by side, it will take you a couple glances before you realize, okay, this is the game and that's from the movie. They did such a good job at blending the gameplay and the animation for Super and combining it into one. Like, when you look at the other Tenkaichi games, you're like, yeah, that's a video game. And maybe that's not a good example because those games are really outdated, but we should still acknowledge the beauty in the visuals. Like, when you fire a Kamehameha and your opponent moves or just gets slided in some way, and you see the beam curve and make contact with your opponent, the explosion that happens after, it feels like some shit straight out of Super. And I have to say Super because, well, even though I prefer Z, animation-wise, Super obviously is the best example out of all 4 Dragon Ball properties. As I said, it's the most dated one. So that's mainly the property that they took from in terms of visuals. Like all the character models, whether it's Z or GT or Dragon Ball, they've all been polished to match the visual qualities of Dragon Ball Super. Like before this game came out, I used to think the best Dragon Ball Z game visually was Burst Limit. The graphics for that game was crazy for the year it came out in, especially when you compare it to the other Dragon Ball Z that came out that year, Infinite World. But Sparking Zero is hands down better visually. Next up is the online portion of the game. The online portion is solid. It's broken up into 2 different parts. There's player match and then there's ranked match. With player match, there are 6 brackets. For the top 2 brackets, those are the current people who are fighting. Now, if you win that match, you stay at the top of the bracket, while the loser goes at the bottom. And after that, as the winner, you fight the next person in line. Think of it like Halo's Kingslayer, if I'm remembering that mode correctly. If you're the Kingslayer, you get the most points, which in this case is a winning streak. If you lose, then the person who beat you is the new Kingslayer, and then the next person has to kill them. I think I'm remembering that mode correctly. Now, the online gameplay to me is, as I said, it's solid. I have 2 things, right? Number 1, with the online, I don't know if this is just me, but I noticed that after you and the other player do y'all intros, that little like 2 seconds, that transition from the cutscenes to the actual match, there's a bit of a lag. That could just be me, but my PlayStation is connected to the router, so I'm thinking maybe it's a game thing. Also, sometimes the snap vanishing isn't as responsive as it would be offline. There's times when I time it right and it hits, and there's times when I do and it doesn't. Nonetheless, I still enjoyed it. The other part is ranked match. There are no brackets, it's just matchmaking between you and another player. How it works is you start at D5, and with each match you win, you gain enough XP to level up your character from D5 to D4 to D3. It goes between D, C, B, and A. The more you win, the higher in rank you go. You can either rematch the opponent you just beat or lost to, or you can find a new one. And then the game match makes you to another player. You can either fight people your own rank, or you can go higher. Now, if you win in some of those higher matches, you get more XP that helps you level up faster. Well, in comparison to if you fought someone with your similar skill level. It's always fun playing against the CPU, but playing against another player, it makes the win more satisfying, but it also makes the loss a lot more disappointing. Like, there was a match where I was playing as Bardock, and bro was playing as, I think he was playing as Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. And me, I thought I was saucing on him because I kind of had the advantage within the first half of the match. Nah, man, bro had the craziest comeback and he beat my ass. And the whole time I'm left thinking, damn, he really rocked my shit. I had to go back and play Budokai Tenkaichi 2 to see if I was actually good. The online portion is hands down the funnest part of this game. The offline is just as fun, I swear to God, but it's like online, it's like you playing with other people, whether it's people who are new to the series, people who grew up playing it. You play people from all different sorts, and I love it. Although, and maybe I haven't found it yet, I kind of wish there was like in-game voice chat, kind of like on the old COD lobbies, so you can hear people's reactions whether they like win a big fight that they didn't expect to win, or they like lost terribly bad. The one thing I will say before I leave the online portion of this game, man, let me tell you something. If your main character in online is Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, or maybe Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. He's kind of iffy with me. But heavy on Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. You suck. Ultra Instinct Goku's another one, man. If you have to pick between one of those 4, I hate you. Cause you don't got the guts to be who you wanna be. Like, this is, but see, I kind of like it though, because this game follows all the older ones' formula. It doesn't matter if it's Budokai Tenkaichi, it doesn't matter what game it is. If Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is in that game, he's the most OP character hands down. Like in every game. And he's no different here. Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta can hang with some of the super characters. Bro's speed and damage is crazy, and I love that. Because it was exactly the same in all the other Dragon Ball Z games I played. Like, I knew before this game even released, I'm like, yo, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta gonna be the craziest player in this shit. And I was right, and I fucking love it, man. I'm happy. One more thing before I dip. Well, kind of two things. I want to talk about the store. So throughout the game, you can unlock, characters, titles, items, and costumes throughout episode battle, right? But if you don't want to play through that, you can just go to the store and use Zenny to buy them. At the store, you have different items you can use to upgrade your character, whether it's combat, speed, ki, whatever. You can upgrade all of it at the item store. There's also a section where you can buy costumes for a select group of people in the game. Next to that, you also have the character list. All the locked characters are free for you to buy. Well, not free, you have to pay Zenny for it, but they're there. So when you get the Zenny to purchase those characters, you don't have to go through fucking episode battle after episode battle to unlock them all. You can just buy them there. It gives you multiple options to unlock characters throughout the game. Like even in the World Tournament. In the World Tournament mode, I bought Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta on the store, but even after I bought him, when I won a world tournament, I was able to unlock him there as well. A variety of options. The second thing is the custom battle. They're in the same boat as episode battle. Custom battle, I didn't really enjoy it as much as episode battle or any other game modes. As I said, I didn't really come here for a story, but they put in an effort to add some for people who might be looking for that. Custom battle are pre-made stories made specifically for that mode. For example, the very first one that I played, well, the first one I saw, was an episode battle with Trunks and Piccolo, where he came back in time. This is during the Goku Black arc, and he was looking for help to defeat him in the future, and he went to train with Piccolo in order to become stronger to defeat him. And in the beginning of that match, it was kind of shot like an episode from like Z or Super. Like there was a storyboard telling us the events and how each character was feeling, but the title card was built just like Z and Super. They have a picture of like the wasteland in the background with 7 different Dragon Balls on the forefront, and the title of the specific custom battle as like a stand-in for the title of an episode. As I said, I didn't enjoy it as much as episode battle or the other game modes, but it's there if you want to play it. You can even create your own story if you want. Also, me saying I didn't enjoy it as much as episode battle or the others isn't me saying that because it's a bad game mode. It's just me saying I didn't come here for the story mode. I just came for the action. Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero met every single expectation I had for it, and it also gave me a lot more than I was expecting. Whether it's the what if mode or the custom battles, the advanced gameplay between this one and the previous ones, everything about it to me was solid. Hell, even the intro for the game, each Tenkaichi had their own intro. They're all creative in their own ways. My personal favorite Tenkaichi intro of like all time, hell, my favorite Dragon Ball Z game intro was Tenkaichi 1. Now, in comparison to the second one and the third one, they didn't use in-game models. They used CGI. It was like a pre-rendered cutscene. It had Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, Vegeta all fighting Frieza, Cell, Majin Buu, and a bunch of Cell Juniors. Yo, if you get the chance, go back and look at Tenkaichi 1's intro. It was fucking amazing. And the music in the background, the opening with Shenron like soaring through the clouds and then making contact with the camera before we transition to the fight. This one has something like that too. It has its own intro. Now I can't show it. When I got the game, a message popped up on the top left corner where it was like, recording for gameplay has been restricted, something like that. I wasn't allowed to record it due to copyright, but it did its thing. It got me just as hyped for this game as the other intros did. Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero was fucking amazing, man. I'm gonna make this shit last as long as I can until the next Tenkaichi game comes out. Or hell, bring back Budokai. That was another series that did good. All in all, this video is going on for a long fucking time. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I was looking forward to making it for like a year now. I remember when I first found out it came out, or it was coming out, I was so fucking hyped. And there was a period where I kind of like forgot about it. It was like halfway through, because I didn't hear any like news or updates for it. But I always kind of kept in the back of my mind like, this shit's coming eventually, so just hold on. And I'm glad I got to play this shit, man. Like this game goes further beyond. Pun intended. Now, that's just me and my experience. If you didn't like it, that's you and yours. Or even if you haven't played it yet and you're just listening to me talk about it, I would suggest you play it and you find your own opinion on the matter. Because Even though I do love the game for what it is, like the gameplay is great, some of it for me is also nostalgia. So if you don't have that, I feel like you should play it for yourself and get your own opinion. Nonetheless, I really appreciate you guys watching this episode of Reggie TV. I know I've been gone for a minute. I spend a lot of time playing this game, man. And I was also working on a Battlefront 2 video, and I was halfway done with the audio, but then I was told that, hey, if you bought the deluxe, you can play it today. So I just dropped that shit and hopped on this. So once I upload this video, I'm gonna go back to talking about, I'm gonna finish my Battlefront 2 video. So I'm gonna finish that one up. Undisputed also released. I should be working on that, but I want to finish the Battlefront 2 video first. I don't want to balance multiple projects because eventually I'm going to procrastinate. I also want to do a WWE video. I haven't done one in like a while. I was thinking either WWE 12 or SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. Or maybe I'll play one of the older Dragon Ball Z games. I've been meaning to do a video on Burst Limit for like, I want to say a year now? I don't know. Only time will tell. Nonetheless, I appreciate y'all watching this episode of Reggie TV. I'll see y'all on the next one, and I'm out.